This wasn't supposed to happen. Sanctions were supposed to stop Iran's nuclear ambitions. Diplomacy was supposed to work. The Islamic Republic of Iran's axis of resistance, with its hundreds of thousands of rockets and missiles, was supposed to keep Israel in check. The US, with vulnerable bases nearby and oil routes at risk, would never get involved. But it happened anyway. Not by accident, not overnight, but over a year and a half, the Islamic Republic of Iran and its proxies overplayed their hand over and over. And Israel, again and again, called their bluff. Until, in the early hours of June 13th, the strike that wasn't supposed to happen did. So how did Israel pull off Operation Rising Lion? A summary of how we got here. After a 1979 revolution swept away Iran's Western-backed Shah, a new regime took power under the command of this guy. Ayatollah Khomeini rose to power with the help of an unlikely alliance of Marxists, Islamists, and nationalists, all united in their hatred of the Shah and his cozy relationship with foreign powers, seen as exploiting Iran's natural resources, aka oil. But that alliance quickly fell apart when Khomeini's Islamist faction took power and began to rule with an iron fist. Anti-imperialism and anti-Westernization were central to the revolution, and they became defining pillars of this new Islamic Republic of Iran. Anti-American sentiment surged. And while Israel isn't a Western colony, Iran's new regime cast it as exactly that. America's sidekick in the Middle East. The little Satan to America's great Satan. In this narrative, Israel became the embodiment of everything the revolution opposed, and the front line in the Islamic Republic's battle with the West. As other Middle Eastern countries like Saudi Arabia, the UAE, even Qatar began aligning more closely with the US, they too found themselves in the crosshairs of the regime's fury. Whether it was Khomeini in charge or his successor, Khamenei. I'm sure Iranians are a creative bunch, but apparently not with the names of their dictators. But the Islamic Republic wasn't in a position to confront the US or its allies directly. So the Republic turned to a new strategy, arming proxy forces to do the fighting for them, while keeping Iran's hands nice and clean. And for decades, totally worked. Hezbollah targeted US forces in Lebanon and later shifted its focus to Israel. The Assad regime in Syria funneled weapons to Hezbollah and threatened Israel's northern border. Hamas and its affiliated groups carried out attacks on Israeli civilians, derailed peace efforts, and triggered 3 military campaigns in Gaza, all before October 7th. In Yemen, the Houthis fought a 7-year proxy conflict with Saudi Arabia before signing a truce and turning their attention to Israel. Even while relying on proxy groups, the Islamic Republic wasn't exactly subtle about its endgame. Its leaders repeatedly called for the elimination of Israel. So, when the Republic ramped up its nuclear ambitions, Israel and the Saudi-led coalition sounded the alarm. A nuclear Iran wasn't just a threat to Israel. It had the potential to upend the entire Middle East's power dynamic. In response, Israel launched a covert campaign to disrupt the Islamic Republic's nuclear program. Israel used cyber operations like Operation Olympic Games to sabotage facilities and reportedly neutralized key Iranian nuclear scientists. These efforts did slow down the Islamic Republic's nuclear program and demonstrated Israel's intelligence capabilities, but they also deepened the Islamic Republic's determination to level the playing field with a nuclear deterrent of their own. And from Israel's perspective, that couldn't happen. They'd already taken preemptive action against other regional powers with nuclear ambitions, striking an Iraqi nuclear site in 1981 and a suspected Syrian reactor in 2007. But the Islamic Republic had an ace up its sleeve. Thousands of ballistic missiles in its arsenal, tens of thousands of rockets in Hezbollah's hands along Israel's northern border, and Hamas's own arsenal of rockets and underground tunnels in the south. All of it formed a deterrent web, one that kept Israel in check. A direct Israeli strike on the Islamic Republic risked triggering a coordinated retaliation from the Republic and its network of allies, unleashing a devastating force on Israeli civilians. So instead of direct confrontation, Israel focused on containment. The strategy? Stall the Islamic Republic's nuclear ambitions, hold back Hamas and Hezbollah, and use sanctions, cyber operations, and pinpoint strikes on Iran-linked targets in places like Syria to maintain a fragile balance. For years, that shadow war stayed just behind the surface. But after Hamas's surprise infiltration on October 7th, 2023, the most catastrophic loss of Jewish life since the Shoah, everything changed. The Islamic Republic's carefully constructed strategy to deter an Israeli strike began to slowly fall apart. First, Israel learned a harsh lesson on October 7th. When your enemies say they intend to eliminate you, take them seriously and act before it's too late. Israel had tried containment with Hamas. It failed, and that failure meant Israel could no longer rely on the same strategy elsewhere. Second, Hamas had hoped to ignite a regional conflict against Israel, but as Israel responded with a devastating campaign in Gaza, Hamas realized their plan fell short. Hezbollah did open a supporting front, launching near-daily rockets into northern Israel, but it was a far cry from the large-scale offensive Hamas had counted on, and Hezbollah had reportedly even been preparing. And Hamas's sugar daddy, the Islamic Republic of Iran, they watched from the sidelines as Gaza burned. The hidden message behind all that? Iran and its proxies were scared, and Israel saw an opening. So in April 2024, Israel neutralized a senior Iranian commander in Syria who was coordinating weapons transfers to Hezbollah. The Islamic Republic was eager to reestablish deterrence and decided to respond not gradually, but all at once. It launched hundreds of drones and missiles at Israel in a dramatic show of force. The goal? Inflict such overwhelming damage that Israel would think twice before striking again. But something unexpected happened. Israel's defense system, along with the US and other allies, intercepted the vast majority of the incoming threat with stunning success. What was meant to paralyze Israel instead revealed the Islamic Republic's vulnerabilities. Israel seized the moment, launching a series of operations that would reshape the region. July 2024, Israel eliminates the head of Hamas while he's bunkered in an Iranian military-protected safe house. It isn't just a strike on Hamas, it's a message to the Iranians. We can reach anyone, anywhere. September 2024, Israel goes on the offensive again, this time against Hezbollah. After a year of daily rocket fire from Hezbollah, operatives' pagers explode. Leaders are buried in the rubble of their bunkers. Hezbollah is decimated, signing a ceasefire within weeks, only to watch Israel and then the Lebanese army disassemble everything they'd built to deter an Israeli attack on the Islamic Republic. October 2024, Iran again tries to reestablish deterrence with another massive barrage on Israel. And again, the damage is minimal. Israel's counterattack takes out air defenses in Iran, once thought to be impenetrable. It's a clear warning to the Islamic Republic. You are defenseless against us. Quit while you're ahead. But the dominoes had already begun to fall. December 2024. With Hezbollah out of commission, their forces are no longer able to prop up the Iran-backed regime in Syria. Rebel forces sweep into the Syrian capital, and another member of the Islamic Republic's axis of resistance is off the map. The myth of Iran's untouchability is shattered. The fear keeping Israel from striking Tehran is dissolving by the day. January 2025. Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu flies to Washington to convince Trump that now is the time to strike and neutralize the Islamic Republic's nuclear program. But fearing a broader regional war, Trump holds Netanyahu back. Trump wants to give time for diplomacy. The Islamic Republic knows it's in trouble, and Trump calculates the Ayatollah will finally give in on his nuclear ambitions. April 2025. Trump gives the Islamic Republic 60 days to comply with his demands. The clock on the boldest Israeli military operation is counting down. Let's be clear, Israel's attack on the Islamic Republic of Iran wasn't some spur-of-the-moment decision. Like Operation Grim Beeper against Hezbollah, this mission had been in the works for years. Quietly, patiently, Israel had been laying the groundwork, piece by piece, positioning assets that might sit dormant for months, even years, waiting for the signal to go. The plan drew on decades of intelligence, cyber operations, infiltrating Iranian networks, hard-won intel from covert missions like the 2018 raid on Iran's nuclear archive, and spies on the ground, recruited from the masses of Iranians tired of their oppressive regime and tired of having their protests violently crushed by the Ayatollah. Israeli preparations were wrapped in layers of secrecy. Cabinet meetings were held under the cover of discussions about Gaza. While eyes were focused on Hamas, something far bigger was taking shape under the surface. Israel spent months smuggling advanced weaponry into Iran, disguised as commercial items. Then, in Iran, Mossad agents, with the help of local dissidents, established a hidden drone base. At the same time, the IDF engaged in cyber warfare and electronic jamming, so that when the real strike happened, it would blend right in. Just another blip on the radar. And then, Trump's timer ran out, day 61. On the morning of June 13th, 2025, Israelis awoke to emergency alerts from Israel's Home Front Command, warning that Iranian reprisals could be on the way. Meanwhile, Iranians awoke to a new reality. Enter Operation Rising Lion, a name drawn from a biblical verse celebrating the strength and resilience of the Jewish people, and a not-so-subtle nod to the lion on Iran's pre-Ayatollah flag. By the time the Islamic Republic realized it was under attack, it was already too late. Mossad agents embedded deep inside the country had quietly sabotaged radar and missile defense systems, clearing the skies for what came next. Within minutes, Israel had seized air superiority over Tehran. 200 Israeli fighter jets, nearly a third of the Air Force, flooded Iranian airspace. Over 330 precision strikes lit up targets across the country, many in the capital itself, met with virtually no resistance. But this wasn't shock and awe for its own sake. It was a surgical military campaign. The IDF targets were chosen with chilling precision. Nuclear facilities in Natanz and Isfahan, missile sites near Tabriz, and military infrastructure spread across Tehran. Senior nuclear scientists were eliminated in their beds. The Islamic Republic's top generals were lured to a secret meeting by Mossad operatives, only to be neutralized in a targeted strike. In less than an hour, the Republic's top military command was decimated. This wasn't another warning. This was a reckoning. Almost no one thought it was possible, but no one was more surprised than the Iranian regime. Iranian state media tried to downplay the damage, but Western intelligence painted a different picture. The strikes were catastrophic. Panic rippled through the regime, reportedly sending the supreme leader into a hidden bunker. Israelis, woken in the middle of the night by alerts warning of a massive Iranian response, had to wait nearly a full day before the Islamic Republic could coordinate a counterstrike. And when it finally came, it wasn't nearly as devastating as Israel had prepared for, or as the Islamic Republic had hoped. In the days and nights following Israel's surprise offensive, the Islamic Republic responded with waves of missiles. While limited in scope, the cost has been tragic. As of this recording, over 20 lives lost in places like Tel Aviv, Bat Yam, and Haifa. No less tragic, the civilian toll in Iran. Israel's precision is legendary, but with over 1,000 targets hit, many inside the capital, innocent Iranians have lost their lives also. For the first time in history, two of the Middle East's most powerful nations were openly trading blows. But Israel had a problem. Fordow, the key to Iran's nuclear weapons program, was buried deep in a mountain. Hitting it meant either a possible kamikaze ground invasion or the US bringing in its bunker busters. Iran was betting the US wouldn't risk it. No way they'd risk missile strikes on American military bases or a chokehold on global oil routes. But once again, they'd miscalculated, and in came the bunker busters. With its nuclear program shattered, its missile stockpile severely depleted, and the regime's grip on power slipping, the Islamic Republic of Iran finally backed down. Within days, a fragile ceasefire took hold. Hamas thought October 7th would be the beginning of a new Middle East. Instead, It triggered the collapse of their allies, their sugar daddy, and their own people's future. But one question still remains. Will the enemies of Israel ever learn?